Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with the Cassius Morris Show on location at the Rec Room, Southside Edmonton, with Langston Francis, my special guest. Hey, thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me, man. What's up?
Hey, not too much. We're hanging out. So it's been a big day for you. This is the first day of the West Coast tour. Talk to me about the anticipation leading up to it. How's it been so far?
It's super cool, man. I mean, this is my first time in Edmonton. I got here like 2 hours ago or something, and I've already had a pretty good time. Just checking out some stores and doing some little interviews and stuff like that. I think it's really cool to be able to go to a city that you've never been to before and announce that you're having a show and some people actually care. So it's pretty exciting, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you find Edmonton? I know it's only been a couple hours compared to the other places you've been.
Definitely, it feels like a more, obviously it's not a small town, but small town vibe than Toronto. Growing up downtown and stuff, I'm like used to big city stuff, so it feels a little more low-key, but it seems super cool. Everyone seems friendly, so I'm excited to check out more of the city.
Very good. You were born and raised in Toronto?
Yeah, born and raised downtown Toronto since I was lived in downtown since I was about 5, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you take the transit on your own at a young age?
I did actually, yeah. I started taking the streetcar to school when I was probably in 3rd grade, I think.
Ah.
So yeah.
Was that nerve-wracking at all, or were you just used to it?
I'm pretty used to the downtown environment, and I don't know. I think if you're not from there, then that stuff can kind of scare you. But the reality is, most of the people that are around there are super harmless. Just because there's a lot of people, it's still super safe. Toronto's super safe.
Yeah, it's just a big mix of people.
Yeah.
So around what age did the music stuff start to come into play for you? Did people always tell you were gifted growing up, or did you kind of figure it out yourself?
I definitely was always super focused on music since a pretty young age, and I think people definitely took note of that, and people made a point of always saying, when I was in elementary school and middle school, maybe one day you're gonna blow up or something like that. But I don't think anyone thought that I would actually pursue it as a career, and obviously I'm still in the very beginning phases of my career, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I've been taking it seriously since I was pretty young, so yeah.
Very cool. And how has it been watching all these Toronto artists coming up and making a huge name for themselves? Because you hear about it affecting the scene. How about hearing about it from someone who's actually involved in it directly?
It's super cool. I mean, I think for me growing up, I spent a lot of time on the internet, and I spent a lot of time studying the success stories of these local artists, whether it be seeing The Weeknd blow up to this A-list international celebrity level.
Crazy.
Obviously people like Drake, and there's been even other acts who haven't necessarily blown up to that proportion, but they're still doing really well, and it's super inspiring, I think, because they come from the same area I'm from, the same opportunities are around them, and I think often people think that you have to go to the States in order to be successful, and the unfortunate reality is often you do, but I think that's changing, and artists like Drake and The Weeknd are kind of shining a brighter spotlight on Toronto, and I want to be one of those other artists who can break the mold and do something cool from Canada that reaches a global level.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And they are paving the way for so many people such as yourself, and we see people like Ruth B and other artists coming
totally,
up.
Yeah.
That's just absolutely fantastic. So you're with Sony Music right now. You're 17 years old, correct?
Yes, just turned 17.
Just turned 17, so you were signed at 16?
I started working with Sony when I was pretty young. I think I was actually 15 when I started working with them.
Okay.
In a development deal where basically I was just starting to kind of get into finding my own sound and recording music. When I first met with Sony, I had one demo recorded.
Okay.
And I was just playing guitar all the time. I was writing songs, but it was just guitar and piano, all acoustic stuff. And then I spent a couple years, grade 9 and 10 in my high school years, spending a lot of time recording and just finding my own sound and discovering kind of what path I want to take as an artist, sonically. And then when I was 16, I dropped my first single, and then dropped 2 more singles, and then turned 17, and now we're here. So yeah.
Man, that's a pretty crazy come up. So how does it happen that you get a meeting with Sony with one demo recorded?
Well, basically, I met my now manager, Miles Jones, who's also my songwriting partner, when I was about 13, through a family friend, And at this point, I didn't really have music recorded. I was recording stuff in my bedroom, just like taught myself how to use Logic Pro on my computer and stuff. And then I remember I showed him a song on the guitar, and he was like, "Oh, I can help you get in the studio." And then I kept reaching out to him, and it was kind of cool because he took me pretty seriously, even though I was young still. And I think a lot of people didn't, because obviously I was like 13. And then we recorded the demo, and it was cool because it was sort of like, fusing like these folk acoustic pop sounds, like just me playing guitar with like hip hop drums and stuff like that. And then that demo ended up just kind of through people he knew and word of mouth got into the hands of an A&R from Sony. And then from that, he paid some attention to it, and just kind of worked his way up. And then I got offered just like have a meeting with Sony, and I was like 14. I don't know. I didn't really take it that seriously, or I took it very seriously, but I didn't really understand
the gravity of it, maybe.
Yeah, just like how, obviously I'm not saying I was just lucky. I worked really hard to get in that position, but there's a lot of people that work really hard that don't necessarily get recognized for their hard work. So I'm super grateful for the fact that, they took a chance on me and believed in me at such a young age. And
yeah. That's fantastic. It's important, when you see somebody who's young showing initiative. Like, I've had guests come on this show when I was like 11 or 12, totally. And being taken seriously by them means a lot.
Totally.
On the come up.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as I started to get, a very small amount, but still a little bit of recognition, like suddenly people will start to take you more seriously. But when you're young, sometimes people just, I think they just assume that like maybe you don't have the same ambition or something as someone older. So it's cool when you guys start to get taken seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And the main single right now is Fall From Grace. It's getting tons of radio play all over the place. And you're still in high school, right?
Yeah, I'm going into grade 12. Yeah.
Cool. So what's that been like for you locally, for the people in school?
It's cool. I mean, I think I get asked this question a lot in interviews, and I feel like people think that, it must mean you're like walking down the hallways in your school and everyone's like showering you with gifts or something like that. It's like It's not quite like that. I think the biggest difference is for a while a lot of people knew that I was working on music, but kind of getting back to the point of taking serious, no one ever really took it that seriously because I didn't have any music out, and people always see that I was in the studio, but they didn't really know what I was doing, and no one had heard anything. So then when it came out and then got a bit of traction, I think people that before weren't really as supportive, suddenly they're rocking with the music. And it's sometimes obviously all support is good support and it's great, but it's funny when it's like you didn't support me then, and then now it's like you hear it on the radio and suddenly you like the song. It's like the song was the same song before.
Switch up.
Radio. Yeah. But that's just sometimes how things go. So
were you prepared for that through listening to other artists talk about that experience?
Honestly, I don't think I try not to think too much about that stuff. I try to just be prepared in ways of, I try to rehearse a lot for shows, and I try to keep my chops up with writing, and I try to prepare for those sorts of things because, I don't know, I feel like with all the clout stuff that goes around with music, it's super easy to just kind of get, like the saying is like lost in the sauce. Like you get like a little bit of attention, and then like you just totally kind of like lose track of like what your initial goal was. Right. And I feel like I never got into this stuff because I wanted to get famous or anything like that. I got into it because obviously you need money to make music and have the freedom to make music whenever you want and do whatever you want. So obviously it's cool to get recognition, but I got into this when I was super young because it's the one thing that I just never get bored of, and it's when I wake up every day, it's what I want to do. So I try not to think too much about the getting famous or anything like that. Like, I don't know, you just take it in stride, right? And I'm lucky that I have like a really good team of people around me that are like a bit older than me that keep me like super grounded and like level-headed, especially like if I kind of go off track sometimes. So
that definitely, they absolutely seem great. And you raise an interesting point. The whole fame and that whole clout aspect of it used to be the side element of success, and now it seems like people want to make that the main element. And I think that's a detractor from what's actually supposed to be being focused on, which is music and content.
Yeah, totally. I think especially now with how much weight like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, whatever, like that stuff's so important now. But it can kind of be a lot of smoke and mirrors sometimes, because people can appear to be like they have all this attention on them online, but it doesn't those people aren't the same people that can necessarily go to a city and sell X amount of tickets. Like, I was just opening up for this girl, and she's able to sell like 5,000 tickets in a city, but if you go online, it's not like she's getting as many likes or views as like certain really hot rappers online. But if those artists were to go to that city, they wouldn't have the same level of support. So sometimes it's just like you just have to remember that like not everything's what it seems, and just focus on the music and putting out good music and making good music, and eventually people will pay attention. That's what I try to remember.
Yeah. Definitely. That's a good definition of the smoke and mirrors for sure.
Yeah, totally. Especially with just like nowadays, it's like sometimes people are more famous for like their personalities online than the actual music they're making, even though they're labeled as a rapper or whatever. Is like they're more famous for all the smoke and mirror stuff. Yeah.
I don't want to give him more clout, but we all know who we're talking about. We all know. I did some research on you, and I found out that you're a big fan of Kanye West. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him too. So how has Kanye affected you as an artist, if at all, or just by listening to music from him?
Well, I think musically, the interesting thing with Kanye, and Kanye's been putting out music since I was like born, pretty much. But like from what I've experienced directly, like seeing him put out like the Yeezus album and like the Life Problem stuff, like whenever Kanye puts in an album, it seems like there's like a huge wave that follows it in the next like 12 to 24 months in the music industry. And I think that's kind of crazy that you can just be, what is it, he's had like 10 straight number ones or something like that, like to remain relevant for that long. And if you listen to his first album, it sounds nothing like the EP he just put out.
Exactly.
But I think that's the coolest thing, like the fact that he's able to have such a huge impact on music culture, and just like hip-hop culture and pop culture and everything for such a long amount of time. Like, people can say what they want about him. He's obviously made some questionable decisions and supported some questionable people, but
that's right.
I think that doesn't take away from the fact that he's clearly like at a genius level in terms of his ability to like interpret culture and then like respond to it and have everyone just take him so seriously all the time with what he says. So, despite some of his like sort of shady, like the things he did on Twitter with the mega hat and everything,
right?
That
TMZ.
was stupid. Yeah, and I think that the thing with that too is like, I don't even know if he like fully like, I think he was doing something to be controversial for the sake of being controversial. Maybe it was taken too far, but at the end of the day, I don't think he's like a raging conservative or anything like that. I don't know Kanye personally, so who knows.
It's hard to get a sense of his core beliefs, but I think that he has good intention behind it, but his execution is very poor.
Did you see the Charlamagne interview, the like hour-long interview?
I saw a couple of them. Oh, that one, yes, I did see.
The really long, like I guess he didn't even know about the travel ban or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, I mean, also it's stupid to support someone where you don't even know their policies.
Exactly.
Like,
on any sides.
Yeah, totally. Like, regardless of, if you're gonna support someone, at least be able to back it up. But the fact that he didn't even know that, it was like, okay, well, the people that are coming down on him like know the negative sides of Trump.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They know all about it.
Yeah, totally.
So would you say Kanye is one of the top people you want to work with in the future, or are there other people that are top priority?
100%, but I think I don't like choose to want to work with people based on the fact that they're like super successful or famous. I think the cool thing, like me and like my team, I tend to keep everything in house with like production. My engineer is the same for everything. I feel like we've sort of started to develop our own sound, and I kind of want to like take that further. If I had like a number one album a year from now, I wouldn't suddenly just start trying to work with like A-list producers.
Right.
Because I feel like the thing that makes my music unique is it's not just me, it's not just my voice, it's the people that I have around me and kind of this sound that we're creating together. But yeah, especially with artists like that, I think the biggest thing that inspires me, just to bring it back to Kanye, was like the fact that he just does things without totally worrying about what people are going to react to it. And I think people can sense when you're taking yourself too seriously or you're doing something for the wrong reasons. And I think he just does stuff that like he's just acting from his heart. So even if he does things that are, not smart choices sometimes, it's still genuine, it's honest. It's not like he's making it up, it's not faking it. So
definitely. Yeah. Very good point. Well, Langston, I thank you so much for your time. And to end this interview, what can we expect in the future from you? Is there anything being worked on right now or just touring right now?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've got, enough music to to fill a lot of projects right now. Like right now, next single we're dropping is called Circles. We're dropping the single and the video hopefully sometime in early August.
Cool.
And we're working towards the first project, which we haven't really talked about or announced yet, but it's going to be an EP. It'll probably be sometime in early September. And then we've got some headlining shows coming up, Mod Club November 29th for all the Toronto folks. And we're playing another one in Montreal, I believe it's November 25th. So
cool.
Really looking forward to those. At that point, the EP will be out, and it's gonna be a really, really good time. Lots of new music to come, new content, more shows, merch,
Cool.
everything. Yeah.
So cool. I think it's going to go great for you, and I think it's going to be fantastic watching your come up. And I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for the show tonight as well.
Thanks so much, man. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me.
Thank you.